Nope, now we are.
There. All right. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, April 18th, and I will call together this school committee meeting at 1:33 p.m. We will start with reports, updates, and action items, including consideration of food services contract, FY26 budget update, and anticipated future agenda items, next meetings, and adjournment. So first of all, let's see, we had the food service budget, which we had agreed, or Mr. Marin had met with Mr. Mahoney, Mr. Lynn, Ms. Phelan of Ambrose, and with me to discuss a bid for the Winchester Food Services contract. This is a 5-year contract. There was only one bid. And Mr. Marin, would you just like to talk a little bit further about that and the process?
Yes. For this process, we followed the new guidelines set by the DESE, and we had a tour a couple of weeks back for, I think we had 5 vendors show up, but ultimately we just had one bid, and that was the company that we have now, which is Whitson's Culinary Group, who we're happy to renew. That we've been working pretty well with them. We've been doing some great programs. And what's also new this year is that we incorporated a 5-year agreement. And so it just sort of extends the process and allows us to continue building out that program and work with the same vendor. It does have those same guarantees that it's a 5-year agreement, but it's really a 1-year initial term, and with 4 1-year renewals based on their performance. So yeah, attached you had a memo that sort of summarized our process as Paul and Nessie outlined, and the preference would be to have a vote on it, and that would keep us in alignment with our schedule we submitted to DESE to complete it this month.
And there was a rubric to evaluate that bid on, I think Mr. Marin described it in his memo. The bid met all of the criteria of the rubric. The criteria were very specific, like pretty much yes or no. And the team was generally satisfied based on those criteria.
Mr. Barron, can you just clarify, it's a 5-year contract, but it's a 1 year-over-year renewal, right?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So the 1 year is the initial term, and then with 4 additional 1-year renewal options. So 5 years total.
So in other words, while it's a 5-year contract, if things don't go well, we're not stuck for 5 years if we wanted to go somewhere else.
Right. Yep. Yeah, we put that language in the motion too. You'll see that they're upon satisfactory performance.
Perfect.
Mr. Hopcroft?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm comfortable with the the evaluation process of all of our bids here. I think they've done a good job in the past and will continue to do so. I'm also comfortable with the 5-year term for reasons we talked about in prior meetings. I just wanted to confirm, Mr. Marin, can you just remind us, are we including that to the extent that we're using disposable trays, that they be compostable? Is that part of this agreement as well? I was just curious about that. I know we're trying to move towards washing trays as we get dishwashers, but in the interim, I know there's a lot of interest in that.
Yes. So as part of this this new process through DESE, you sort of had their boilerplate RFP template that had those built-in minimum criteria and some evaluative criteria. And then as a district, we could add additional questions or evaluations. And one of those components, we added a sustainability requirement to there. So how they would meet our goals around sustainability as a district, and continuing the practice of compostable trays, and moving to deploy composting efforts across the district. And then working with us to kind of further improve as we look to maybe reduce single-use plastics or what may come up. But that was our criteria here, and Whitson so far has been a great partner in that, and their proposal, they kind of wanted to further develop that and had some good ideas around that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from committee members? Otherwise, I would, if you are comfortable moving forward with this, I'd accept a motion.
I'd be happy to move to approve a 5-year contract with Whitson's Culinary Group to serve as the district's food service management company, consisting of an initial 1-year term with 4 additional 1-year renewal options contingent upon satisfactory performance as determined by the district.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Ms. Minyarji,
Aye.
Dr. Matthews,
Aye.
Ms. Bergstrom,
Aye.
Mr. Hopcroft,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, and the vote is unanimous. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marin. And the
Yes.
evaluation committee.
That's right. Thank you. And then without further ado, we'll move on to the FY26 budget update. I will turn that over to Dr. Hackett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. So because you've seen these slides at least 103 times, I'm going to just go through quickly, kind of a condensed version of this. I'm not intending to provide another budget presentation. Other than to say, as you know, we had several meetings with precincts. We had last night had a Zoom session for anyone from any precinct who wasn't able to attend. There have been multiple meetings, as you know, and so just kind of take us back to where we started and then where we are. And then I do have 2 specific recommendations that I would like to share with you before, and then I'd be happy to answer questions, if that's okay. So as you know, the current budget that we're in was a 4.67% increase over the prior budget, FY24. You can see the major drivers of what we're going into for next year for FY26. So working from FY25 to 66 million, we have about a $3.5 million increase in personnel services, which is higher than what we normally roll over at for a variety of reasons, including the contracts that we settled. And then additionally, we also have a built-in 2% that the Unit A starts the next contract with, regardless of what is negotiated beyond that. So that's all built in. The column moves for credits are built in. Obviously the steps are built in as well. And then we have about a $287,000 increase in other expenses. So that budget came in as a preliminary level services, which is what you voted to approve and sent to the town manager. That was at 5.84%. Then working from that amount, we continued to work on the level services budget. As time went on, we were able to realize that we could take some adjustments, including reductions, and also we had some additions. So we were able to take a reduction in out-of-district tuition based on where the numbers were trending and how our initial projections were probably a little bit conservative, given that they were made in January, which is also the benefit of this timeline that we're on now, because if we get to March and we have a much better handle on what those numbers look like, understanding that there's always potentially some unanticipated, unexpected. So we reduced the budget in combination, those 2 things, by $217,000. We then, as we continue to work with directors, central office principals, we came back and realized that we really needed to, these had been in discussion, but not included in the level service budget. We were going to bring them as priorities, but as time went on, as we were going through the process, we realized that these need to be in level service because we need these positions to be able to provide what we would consider level service, which is meeting the needs of the students who we will have in front of us. So the multi-language support position and 1.0 FTE, we had added a 2.0 Mandarin position to high school, which will be for purposes of adding an AP section of Mandarin, following up with the enrollments that are increasing as we go through. And then we have special education teachers. We added 2. Those positions would be at VO and at Lincoln. Those have been needed. They were emerging needs. They become increasingly so for next year anticipated. So we added those 2 positions as well for a total add back of $262,000, which brought us to an adjusted level services budget of 5.91%. Then moving forward, we we brought that adjusted level services budget to you, and I brought recommendations that were spelled out in a document that listed out kind of a 5-year plan. I had recommended the first section of that 5-year plan, which was what we had called level 1 priority. It was very specifically dedicated to running the literacy pilot, including professional development and some software support for literacy implementation. We talked about that being could be looked at as one-time funding, given the fact that we're not going to do a pilot again next year. That the hope is we do the pilot, we pilot 2 programs. Hopefully, we get to the end, or if we get in starting in December and January, we'll have a better sense of where we are. With the hope that we're going to pick one program to implement in the FY27 year. Then we'll know that number, and that number will be separate and apart, and that will be. It'll come to you as a priority for discussion. And obviously, it may be more than 455. We don't know for sure, but we're not going to do a second pilot. So that's why we tried to treat it like kind of as it is 1 year cost. So with that that brought us to a level, my recommended budget of 6.59%. Then going through the process further on the 20th of March, you as a committee had further discussion around not just the budget that I had recommended, but you went down the list a little bit further on the priorities that were provided. You made the decision to add 2 FTE elementary math interventionists, and you made the decision to support the elimination of shared staff at McCall Middle School, which will be some combination of support for positions that are shared between elementary schools and McCall, with the goal of eliminating as much of the shared staff as we can so that we can actually change the McCall schedule. The total of those 2 adds was $365,580, which then brought your approved budget, which you voted on the 20th, to 7.15%. With that, since that time, Councilor Becknport at Select Board had been working through an article. At one point, we were aware of that article earlier on. The initial discussions were in around about $100,000 to cover part of the literacy pilot, kind of more specifically to professional development. But since that time, in further conversations, recognizing that the $455,000 that we added as part of the pilot program here, being one-time funding, there was support for, and I think certainly appreciate the support, to have those funds actually removed from our operating budget and go through an Article 28, and with that we would be reducing our budget correspondingly by the $455,000. Obviously, in the hope that the Article 28 passes. We're hopeful also that the Article 28 is taken up before the school budget is taken up as well. But with that would bring us down to a recommended budget of 6.46%. So I would recommend that you take favorable action on Article 28, and I would recommend that you reduce the current budget that you approved on the 20th by the amount of $455,000, bringing you to $70,415,718, which represents a 6.46% increase. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
So I'll open it up to comments and questions from the committee. Mr. Hopcroft.
I think this is a smart move. I appreciate the select board offering to put this article out there, or putting the article out there, since it's one-time funding, and I think it will help with our overall getting our budget through town meeting. I do wonder, what I agree with having it go ahead of ours, and just curious. Well, I can't really imagine a world where it fails, but what if it fails? I'd be concerned, and I guess we could address that prior to our budget being taken up. But generally, I'm supportive of this. I think it's a good idea.
Well, and that's a great question, a great point, Mr. Hopcroft. I would want to be clear. If Article 28 fails, then we do not have funding for a literacy pilot program. So that's where we would be. As part of my initial recommendation, I had kind of spelled out some potential for donations and outside funding, which we would then more heavily pursue because we certainly want to do the pilot program. But without that passing, we would not have funds through this whole process to be able to do the pilot program.
Ms. Bergstrom?
I just wanted to respond to Mr. Hopcroft and the issue Dr. Hackett just raised, and just remind the committee that we are also all town meeting members as well. So were that to happen, we could certainly rise in support of amending our budget then by the $455,000 were Article 28 to fail. So I think we do have a little bit of a fail safe on that. I think my bigger concern if Article 28 would fail was that the budget we were bringing in was not supported by town meeting either, which I think would be our bigger problem. So I'm less worried about the risk of this not passing. I think we have a fail safe for that as town meeting members, but I think as a committee, we would have to just be aware of the fact that if it's not supported outside our budget, it probably isn't going to be supported inside our budget either. So this at least guarantees funding for literacy in a way, in my mind, that we would be protecting this funding for the literacy pilot next year.
Dr. Matthews?
Thanks so much, Madam Chair. I think my initial reluctance about this article was actually the number of $100,000. So I'm grateful to Mr. Betancourt that he's willing to consider changing it. I think this actually turns out to be a really great vehicle for calling that out. I know it's something that's had a lot of support in the community. We've obviously been under a tremendous amount of scrutiny around this issue, and also have learned some things that definitely do need mitigation as a result of the CES report and the work that's been done over the past year. So I like the idea of actually specifically calling this out, having a vote in support of it. And I also like the fact that it is able to reduce the overall number. But just in general, wanted to thank those who were willing to collaborate on this, especially Mr. Betancourt, for his willingness to be flexible around the number and the specific targeting of it, as well as based on the information we have so far, that the moderator, Mr. Frateroli, is willing to move this up so that we're able to get a vote on it prior to the operating budget should we need to revisit it. So I think this is a good testament to collaborative work, conversation across boards and committees in town, and we should all be grateful that we're able to find this solution. So thanks to everyone who's been involved.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Ms. Minyarji?
Thank you. Yes, I am so grateful for this article. I think it makes complete sense to pull out one-time pilots out of our operating budget. We're not going to be piloting a new literacy program every year. So this makes complete sense from a financial standpoint, and I am grateful for this vehicle that Mr. Betancourt has allowed us to utilize. Thank you.
Great. And I guess I too am happy that we can see the one-time expenses pulled out of our operating budget, and that we have this opportunity before us to move forward. So thank you very much to those who have worked very hard on this. Any further
Just-
discussion?
Only just to share that you do have a copy in the meeting materials for today of the full article language. So if it is consistent, this is the first part of it, but that is the actual motion. Well, that's the introduction to it. So
Ms. Bergstrom, I see your hand popped up. Or did it? It went back down. Okay. Oh, and here we have the whole article, but very small.
Yeah. I was just going to I wasn't sure if the whole article is available, Ms. Bolognese. Remind people that what's most important and operative to town meeting is the motion that is included in this.
I think we're all reading it right now. So just in terms of moving forward, I believe that Dr. Hackett, if I'm correct, you are looking for a motion and a vote from the board regarding this. I want to be super crisp about where we're at because I know that the original language for Article 28 was different. And I believe, remembering some town meeting situations like this in the past, I just want to know what we know about where this currently sits. I think town meeting still has to vote to accept, or are we the change language, or are we good because we're far enough away? I'm just thinking about the timing because I think it's 10 business days prior, or else town meeting has to accept the change even if it's a pro forma vote.
So I think, Mr. Matthews, that the article language can't be changed because of the date, but the motion and background, as you see, have been updated. And I believe that council has ruled that it's the motion that's operative and that the article is similar enough that notice is proper.
Perfect. Okay, just wanted to verify that.
Yeah.
In that case,
This
is it?
is what's on the town meeting website. So at
Yes.
this very moment. So.
So I'll point out that in the motion for those maybe who are listening that may not be able to see it, that the funds will support professional development, enhancement of the Winchester Public Schools, educators and staff, purchase of literacy data management systems, and support for multi-tiered systems to support data management progress monitoring tools, and the purchase of programmatic and curriculum materials related to the early literacy pilot initiative. So that's what folks will be voting on.
Dr. Hackett and Mr. Marin, I believe we have a member of Select Board who has raised their hand and is happy to. I'm wondering if they want to get into the conversation and clarify. Since we have that person here, it might make sense to elevate them if folks are okay with that.
Be up to the chair. Yes, we elevating, Madam Chair?
Okay, let's go
Yeah.
ahead then.
Hi, thank you. Anthea Brady, the select board. I just want to clarify that the motion language that you were looking at is the motion that was printed and that will be mailed out. So members of town meeting will be receiving the motion language as you're discussing, and the article language as discussed will remain as the previous article was.
Thank you, Ms. Brady. In that case, I mean, I understand we may be doing this on the fly, but I'm happy to try to make a motion to encapsulate what we've discussed. If the chair is open to that motion,
Thank
or
you.
if there's somebody else
I would welcome that.
already writing something down, I will happily defer so that I don't have to do it on the fly. All right, hearing no one else, I would be happy to move that the school committee accept that the school committee vote favorable action on Article 28 with the amended motion language and background. And accordingly would be happy to, and if Mr. Marin or Dr. Hackett could change the screen for me back to the budget number,
We might need a couple separate motions, Mr.
I
Mayor.
was about to say, I think.
Then
it
let's
would be in
stick
two
with
steps.
that maybe.
I would need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor, Mr. Hopcroft,
Aye.
Ms. Minyarji,
Aye.
Ms. Bergstrom,
Aye.
Dr. Matthews,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, and the vote is unanimous on the school committee's support of Article 28.
And
And
Ms.
Ms.
Bolognese,
Bergstrom.
I'd just suggest that we also make a motion to support moving Article 28 ahead of Article 22, since it's our own budget, we're asking it to move ahead of. And I think that that might help town meeting and the moderator know our intent. So I'd also be happy to make a motion to move Article 28 prior to Article 22 at town meeting at the discretion of the moderator.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, Ms. Bergstrom,
Aye.
Ms. Minyarji,
Aye.
Dr. Matthews,
Aye.
Mr. Hopcroft,
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So thank you very much for that.
Now you can do the.
And then
Dr.
now
Right.
we can
So
come back to
I would,
our budget.
I would move that the school committee reduce its approved budget ask of town meeting from the former number of $70,870,718, which represented a 7.15% year-over-year increase, to a revised number based on our prior two approved motions of $70,415,718, which represents a 6.46% year-over-year increase.
Second.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hopcroft,
Aye.
Ms. Bergstrom,
Aye.
Dr. Matthews,
Aye.
and Ms. Minyarji.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the vote is unanimous. All right,
Thank you.
let's see. Okay, I believe we have gotten through that portion. So then all we have is our anticipated future agenda items, which remain the same as in our previous meeting. We have those up on the screen, I believe. And with that, our next meetings will be April 28th, the pre-town meeting. May 1st, pre-town meeting, and then May 6th will be a regular meeting. Any other business or anything? Otherwise, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I would just share with you that I was surprised and that when I came back from town hall today to see a great big truck with all the Lincoln playground equipment out front that's being installed now as we speak. So that's kind of fun. Thought I'd share that.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Maybe they'll actually get to play on it before the end of the school
Let's
year.
not get carried away.
they have a whole spring. So, all right, then I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Nope, second.
I'll let Aaron sort that out. All in favor, Ms. Bergstrom,
Aye.
Dr. Matthews,
Aye.
Ms. Minyarji,
Aye.
and Mr. Hopcroft.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and we are adjourned at 2:01.
Thanks,
Good job.
everybody.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody. It was a
Wincham.
quick turnaround.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.